Hey, Illinois DMLA, Dan Robertson here. It is time to make our basic vinaigrette dressing to go with your salad for your Parents' Day dinner. So we're going to go over the ingredients and I'm going to show you how to make this vinaigrette. So we have for here some fresh chives. Now the chives are just one of my favorites to use in the vinaigrette. You can use other fresh herbs in there. The only thing you want to make sure is that they're what they call soft herbs or delicate herbs. So like basil, parsley, cilantro, the chive. You'd want to avoid things like rosemary because you chop up the rosemary and it's still real tough and it's not going to be a good blend to go in with the vinaigrette. We have 6 ounces of vegetable oil. Any type of neutral oil is perfectly fine. If you want to use olive oil, you can. I suggest blending it. Half olive oil, half vegetable oil or neutral oil, just so it's not too overpowering. We have some yellow mustard here. In this case, the yellow mustard is not used necessarily as a flavoring agent. It is used to help blend the oil and the water together. It's acting as what they call an emulsifier. We're going to use a black pepper to taste. We're going to use a half a teaspoon of salt. We're using red wine vinegar, 2 ounces. This is where you can have some fun. Any type of vinegar is fair game. So if you want to use balsamic vinegar or white wine vinegar, cider vinegar, any vinegar is really fair game to use when it comes to putting together this vinaigrette, which is why we call it just a basic vinaigrette. And then last but not least, we've got a teaspoon of honey. The honey is used as a sweetening agent. If you want to substitute sugar or agave nectar, any of that, of course, is fair game as well. So first thing I want to do is I want to get my chives ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the chives out of the container here. You can see they're actually folded in half. And actually, if you want to keep them folded in half, you can. It makes it a little bit easier to work with. I'm going to take my chef's knife and I'm going to do this cut. It's down and away, up and back, down and away, up and back, down and away, up and back. And I'm just chopping up these chives so they can go into our vinaigrette. You got this really nice, like garlic, oniony kind of aroma coming in from doing all this chopping. We just want really small pieces. Again, if you're using some other types, or if you want to use a blend of different fresh herbs, you can. Just make sure they're nice and small. You don't want any real big pieces going in to your vinaigrette when it's all said and done. So I'm going to take this. I need about half a tablespoon. So I'm going to put my half tablespoon in there. If you got a little bit more, no problem. It's not as much. That works too. I mean, that's what's nice kind of about cooking is you do have a little bit of freedom. You know, if you want a little bit more, a little bit less, in most cases, it's not going to make a huge difference. So let's put this together. So you're going to get yourself a bowl. What you're going to do is you're going to pretty much put everything into the bowl except for your oil and your chives. So my vinegar goes in, honey goes in, and I'm going to use a little spatula to help get the rest of that honey out of the measuring spoon. Salt goes in. The mustard goes in. Again, same thing. I'm going to use this to pull it all together. Okay. So the only thing I don't have in here is the oil and the chives. So I'm going to take and I'm going to use a whisk. And I want to whisk this all together. I want it to all combine really, really nicely. Okay. Now I'm doing this by hand. If you want to put this into a blender and do it that way, you can use a blender. You can use the stick blender or emulsion blender if you wanted to do that. If you're doing a larger batch, you could use a KitchenAid mixer. Actually, if you had one of those hand mixers, you know, the electric hand mixers, you could put that in and mix it too. You just want to make sure you're doing the blending. So all these are blended together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my oil while I'm whisking, and I'm going to combine these two together. So you just got a nice even motion, just a whisk, 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 and I'm letting that oil get into the vinaigrette, what I'm doing is I'm creating an emulsification. And what's happening is the mustard is actually acting like glue to help put the vinegar and the oil together so it stays together pretty nicely. Now eventually this will separate out, and all you gotta do is re-whisk. So now that I've gotten this, I'm gonna take my chives, add my chives in, get some nice color. I'm going to take a little bit of black pepper. So I got some black pepper here, and the black pepper is just to taste. So what you want to do is, once you've got all that mixed together, get yourself a, I'm going to use this real quick. I'm just going to give it a little quick taste. There you go, that's very good. So your vinaigrette is ready to go. Now for service, what I would do is I would put it into a container and let people spoon on their own. So I'll show you. I've got myself a bowl here with a spoon. All right, and then all I'm going to do is take this vinaigrette and then just pour it in here. And then what I can do is I can make my salad, put my croutons on, my veggies, my cheese, all that, set that at the table, and then your family can pass this around and then they can spoon however much of the vinaigrette they would like onto their salad. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the basic vinaigrette dressing for your salad for Parents' Day dinner.